Hello and welcome to the Lyon Show. I'm your host, your favorite coach, Robert Lyon. Today, we have the great privilege of talking to Bryan Clayton. He's the CEO and co-CEO of GreenPal. He started other business. He's just an amazing entrepreneur. And I'm just really excited to hear his story. So Bryan, why don't you take it away and tell everybody kind of who you are and what you're up to?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Yeah, so I'm CEO, co-founder of a company called GreenPal. So in one sentence, GreenPal is like the Uber for lawn mowing. So if you're a homeowner, you need to get your grass cut rather than like getting on Craigslist or Yelp or Facebook, calling a bunch of people, leaving voicemails, you can just download the app and somebody will come out and mow your yard the next day at a fair price. Before GreenPal, I had a landscaping company. I started mowing yards in high school as a way to make extra cash. And then I just kept at that little business, mowing grass all through high school, all through college. Put myself through school mowing yards. And when I graduated college, I had to like make a decision. Was I going to go into the job market or stick with this landscaping business? Didn't really want to be a lawn guy, but I made a little business plan and over a 15-year period of time, built that into one of the largest landscaping companies in the state of Tennessee where I live. Got that company over $10 million a year in revenue, over 150 employees. And in 2013, sold it to one of the largest landscaping companies in the United States. So building that first business, just me and a push mower to me and like 80 trucks going out every day. I learned a lot the hard way on how to get a business going from scratch. And when I sold it, I learned a lot about myself. I learned that I need to be in the game. I need to be in the arena. I need to be working on a project. Like there was something missing from my life. I realized about myself that my business is the thing that gives me purpose. And so I thought, okay, time to start another company. So I had the idea for GreenPal and recruited two co-founders and been working on this business now for 8 years. We're an 8-year overnight success. Several 100,000 people using the app to get their lawn mowed and doing $20 million a year in revenue.
I think that's awesome, man. I mean, I was a landscaper too back in the day, and it's a hard work, man. Especially, you do a lot of crazy stuff. You got to like learn how to make fountains and mow lawns and like organize trees and all kinds of crazy stuff. Trucks always dying and things like that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. It's
man.
a great way to cut your teeth on business ownership. It
Yeah.
really is because it teaches running a lawn mowing business teaches you so many fundamental principles of business that you may not be exposed to any other way. I think
Mhm.
there's one major thing that you learn is like you realize like if this is going to be, it's up to me. And you realize that it's all on you. Like everything from getting new customers, keeping customers happy, to doing things like preventative maintenance on your equipment, to organizing and scheduling your routes, to getting paid, like all these things you learn the hard way. And I think like it's one of those businesses that's accessible and the barriers to entry are low enough to where anybody can get into the lawn mowing business. And a lot of people come to me like, oh, I have this business idea and I need like $5 or $10 million in capital to do it. And I can't get access to capital. And therefore I can't get into business.
Right.
Okay. Well, if you start a business like a lawn mowing business, you can like get like a few years under your belt, maybe 5 years under your belt, and you can save up some money in the lawn mowing business, and then you can go start that big business idea. So like it's funny you say that. I hear that a lot. A lot of people get their start in the lawn care business, and I just stuck with it.
Yeah. You got to get up early and get yelled at. I mean, it was just it was a grind, man. It was hard work. I just remember
Nonstop. It was
it.
not. It's nonstop action. It is
Yeah.
full of however you want to look at it, pain or misery or obstacles that you can overcome and figure out ways to solve problems. It's a good way to learn how to run a business. That's for sure.
Yeah. So how did you really, I mean, the way that I think of it is like you were doing like active, active income for sure when you're doing landscaping. And then you had the idea to, the Uber of landscaping. I think that's pretty cool. Like when did you have that epiphany? And then like, how did it actually come into reality, I guess?
Yeah, so spent 15 years growing a business from scratch in the landscaping industry. Started out just me and a push mower. Little by little, got the snowball rolling, and got another truck, hired another employee, so on, and then figured out how to like scale that company to 8 figures. It was really, really, really hard. To your
Yeah.
point, it's just like organized chaos every day in the landscaping business. So when I sold it, I thought, wow, that was really difficult. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do that again. So
Yeah.
I thought, okay, that was really hard. Now I want to do something easier with my life. I want to start a software business because that's easier.
Mhm.
And boy, was I wrong. I
Yeah.
had no idea what I was talking about. I had no idea what I was thinking. I literally thought building a software enabled business, a marketplace would be easier. And it wasn't until about like 6 months in, I was like, holy crap, this is like 10 times harder. At
Really?
least, at least with the landscaping business, there was a known set of like things to do. There was a known set of obstacles that you had to that you had to overcome. There was like a known set of inputs. You at least knew what the hell you were doing.
Yeah.
When you set off to start a software product, most of the time you're inventing something from scratch that does not yet exist. So that is so much more difficult because you're kind of like figuring it out as you go. There is no known set of things. There's no known playbook. You can't look at the competition and say, oh, I'm just going to do what they're doing, but do it better. It's you're kind of like figuring it out as you go. So it's this trial and error process that takes a long time. And then the sheer like, you know, writing of code and building software. My co-founders and I had to learn that stuff from scratch. None of us were technical, so it was just so much harder, so much more challenging, which is great. Looking back, like I feel like if you're in business, every 5 years or so, you should be reinventing yourself. Like the business should require that of you. If the
Yeah.
business is growing or you're starting new businesses or whatever, like every 5 years, you should like completely change as a person, and for the better. And so looking back, like almost 10 years since I started GreenPal, I'm a completely different person than I was when I started it. There's so many things that I now know how to do and how to deal with that I didn't know then. And so like that's one of the beautiful things about having your own company is that it can require you to grow along with it. It can
Yeah.
extract out of you things and skills that you never knew that you had. And so that's certainly been the case. My experience having to reinvent myself from like a blue collar entrepreneur to a tech entrepreneur. That took about 3 years.
Yeah. How did you find like the right programmer? I guess I don't even know if it's a programmer or whoever wrote the code for all your stuff. Like, since I mean, did you know very much about that, or did you have to just like go all in, learn it, and then find somebody, or how did that process go?
No
Because
clue. Had no clue,
yeah,
and didn't let that stop me, and it didn't stop my two co-founders. I recruited two co-founders who kind of also had a chip on their shoulder. They wanted to like do something great with their life, and they thought like a business would be the way to do it. And so the
uh,
three of us were sufficiently motivated and ambitious to take on this project. The problem was we didn't know how to code. None of us. Not only did we not know how to code, we didn't know how to build software. We didn't know anybody that did. Like we weren't mixing it up in the tech circles, and so we genuinely believed all we had to do was just pay a development shop to build what we thought GreenPal should be, and then we would market it, and then like we would be off and going. We did that, and it took these guys like 9 months to build GreenPal, the first version, and we launched it, and it was a total failure. It was a
ah,
complete flop. Didn't have the features it needed. It was clunky, it's hard to use. Vendors didn't like using it. Homeowners didn't like using it. It was an unmitigated disaster. And like this was like $150,000 that we had pulled together amongst ourselves, from like liquidated 401ks, lines of credit cards maxed out. Like I didn't plow the proceeds from my first company into the second one. Like I knew this new company needed to stand on its own, and
yeah,
so that was like disheartening. And we learned the hard way, like, okay, if you're going to be a tech entrepreneur, if you're going to be in the tech business, if you want to invent a new product from scratch that's a tech product, you're going to have to learn how to build software. There's just no way to outsource this without knowing how to do it. You can't delegate your way out of this and not knowing like the core
yeah,
80/20 of software development. So like we went to work on ourselves while working on the next version of the product. My co-founder went to a boot camp and taught himself back end programming languages. I taught myself how to be a really crappy front end engineer, and we just went to work on it. And like little by little, we got better and better, and the product got better and better. It took a long time, a lot of faith, but it got us to a point where we could build what we needed to build ourselves, and then only then were we in a position where we could delegate it to people who had a whole lot more experience as engineers, who were better at building software than we were. But at least we were in a position where we could delegate it, because up until then, if you don't know how to do this stuff, you can't really delegate it.
right,
It's delegation by like stewardship. It's like, okay, here's our project, here's what we've done, here's the specs, here's what we want you to do and why we want you to do it this way. And like that's stewardship delegation versus like delegation from abdication. It's like, I don't know how to do this, you handle it.
yeah,
That's a recipe for disaster. So I learned the hard way, like we delegated too soon, and then we had to do it ourselves, and then we made another mistake. We delegated too late. We did
oh,
it ourselves for way too long, and that cost us a few years.
so there's a balance there.
There's a balance. Yeah, yeah. And one of my favorite books is The Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, and that's one of the things he talks about in that book is stewardship
Mhm.
and delegating with by way of stewardship. I understand how to do it. This is how we do it. This is why we do it this way. Now you're going to run this process and run this system, versus delegation by abdication, which is I'm afraid of it. I don't want to do it. I'm
Right.
not good at it. Somebody else do it. That never works.
Yeah.
And you can apply that to bookkeeping, legal, HR, marketing, product development, whatever. Like as an owner, as a business owner, entrepreneur, CEO, you kind of have to be like 80-20 good at all of these things. You have to go wide and be decent at all this stuff and understand how it works before you can effectively delegate it.
Wow. I mean, I secretly have always wanted a software company. So, as someone who's never done it and someone who has done it, which is you, like, what are some things that you really wish you would have known when you first started that would benefit people?
Where do I even
Yeah.
start? Yeah, ideally, so most of the time, um, you see tech startup entrepreneurs and they're just crushing it. And a lot of times what you don't realize is like somebody comes out the gate in 4 years, builds $100 million company or whatever. And it seems like, damn, they did that in 4 years. Here I am. I'm like, I'm trying to build this little business and get it over a million in revenue. This guy's or girl's crushing it. And you don't realize like they're on their second, third, or fourth swing at the plate. They've already
Oh,
crashed
wow.
and burned two or three other things. And this one that you see in the business press that's like a grand slam is like the third or fourth attempt at building a tech business. And so you're not looking at 4 years, you're actually looking at like 15 or 20.
Hmm.
And a lot of times these entrepreneurs that are building tech products, a lot of them were like they were hacking on projects in high school. They were trying to
Right.
change their grades in the high school website. Like they were creating little projects when they were 19 or 20 that were like tech oriented. So they've been doing this a long time. And so that was something that I was confronted with, is like, wow, I'm really trying to catch up and learn how to execute at building software when I don't know the first thing on how to do it. It's going to take a long time for me to get up speed. It took like 3 years. And so
Yeah.
so anybody that's listening to this, like if you are in a traditional style of business and you want to like have a tech company, you can totally do it. It's just you're going to have that fire in your belly to get through those 2 or 3 years. It's going to take you to learn how to do the things that you need to do to build a tech product. And it's almost impossible to kind of delegate your way out of it. Now, if you have a rock star co-founder that's really good at software programming and kind of like you trust and can get in the trenches with you and like is your business soulmate, then yes, that can work. Um, but that's really hard to find too.
Yeah. Business soulmate. That sounds pretty hard.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
That's like when you're getting a co-founder for your company. I feel like it is so much easier. It's so much easier to get a divorce and unwind a marriage than it
Yeah.
is to unwind a business partnership. It's so much easier to like get out of a traditional marriage, no matter what, than it is to get somebody off of your cap table. And so like a lot of people go into business getting a co-founder. I think it's the first thing they got to do is like, oh, now I need a co-founder. And they just like go, like, they don't put a whole lot of thought into it.
Uh-huh.
And they don't realize like, if this business goes well, you're going to be spending more time with this person than you are your spouse.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't go well, or if it's not a good fit with them, it's going to be more difficult to divorce them than it is your spouse. And so
Mm.
my advice is like, go it alone unless you find your business soulmate.
That's really interesting because I'm actually starting a new business with some people and I don't know to do it alone or to get it in writing that maybe they get some money.
My
They get
advice
percentages or
is
how to do it.
my advice is date before you get married. So it's
That's good
like, okay, you're
advice.
starting the business. You have some people that you may want to go into business with. Well, let's
Hmm.
date for 6 months. I'm going to pay you as a contractor to work on this thing. And well, I can't afford them. Well, if they really want to be in business with you, they'll do the work that they need to do at a discounted rate
Yeah.
to prove themselves. And like kind of date, and then you can kind of figure out, okay, what kind of work ethic does this person have? How good are their skills really? Do their skills complement my skills? Do I really need them for the business's success, or can I go it alone, or can I get into a more traditional contracting relationship with somebody else who's a freelancer? That way, I don't have to give away equity. Like
Mm.
if you're co-founding a business with somebody, you ideally you're building a 10, 100, $200 million company, $1 billion company. That is the most expensive equity you will ever give away,
Right.
because at some point you may raise capital and like their 20 or 30% could be worth 10 or 20 or $30 million at some point. So yeah, you got
That's
to be in
crazy.
love with them to start a business with them.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Well, we've heard about the struggle. Now I want to hear like, is it the reward at the end of having an awesome like SaaS company? Is it nice because it's all built now and it just does it, or is it still just constantly putting out fires, or what's it like?
It's in many ways building a tech company, like I've outlined, is 10 times harder, but it also can be 10 times easier because every problem you come up against, there's a technological solution for it. And
Right.
so
It's solved.
you can usually build software and engineer things to solve problems, which is nice. And so, our team now is 23 people, and I'm managing different types of employees than I did in my first company. So that's neat and challenging, and it's fun to be, like on a whiteboard with somebody who's smarter than me.
Yeah.
That's cool. That, like ideally, if you're going to start a tech company, like you want to be the dumbest person in the company. Like you literally you
Oh
want
yeah.
to walk into the office and it's people smarter than you.
Mhm.
That's how it needs to be. So yeah, now that it's working, and it probably didn't feel like it was working until like year 5 or 6, but now that it's working and we're profitable, we're making money, we're able to delegate to
Mhm.
people who are specialists. It's uh it is fun. It is a lot more fun than it was in the early days, and it is a lot more fun than it was in my first business for different reasons. You can touch more lives, you can scale quicker, you can put your product in the hands of people who live thousands of miles away from you. That's really cool. But it's still more challenging in terms of the technology is always changing. There's always things that you have to improve on. There's always there's never enough hours in a day. There's always a backlog of stuff that you're working on. And so it's more fun, but it is more challenging. And you can look back and like, we've been at this 7, 8 years. We ended our first year with 22 customers. Half of them were my friends and family. Now there's several 100,000 people using the app. And so you can look
Yeah.
back and you say, wow, look how far we've come. But like the Jeff Bezos quote, like it's still day one. It literally always feels like day one, because you always see how much further you have to go in terms of like how far you can scale the thing, that
Right.
you never really do feel like satisfied by it in a weird way.
There's a lot of lawns out there, man.
A lot of lawns, a lot of
You're gonna
grass. And
get them all
if you
cut, man. I mean, how many states is it in now? I remember I saw your website. It was just like lists of states and areas. It's pretty cool.
we spent 4 years just in Nashville, Tennessee,
Yeah.
trying to get the product to work right, perfecting all of the workflows to make it work reliably and consistently for people that use it on both sides of the transaction. Because really, we're a marketplace that connects buyers and sellers, and both parties have to get value out of the transaction, or else it disintegrates.
Uh-huh.
And so that took a long time to figure out. And so we got through that just by focusing on one market, Nashville, Tennessee. And after we started figuring out, okay, it's working here, we got 1,000 customers just in Nashville. Now I think we can make it work anywhere. We
Uh-huh.
slowly began to go city by city and build the market in every city from the ground up. And that took another 4 or 5 years. And now we're in every major city in the United States. We're in every state, and we're slowly moving to cities that have a population of under 50,000. So we're kind of trying to get it in all the little nooks and crannies throughout the country. Then
Yeah.
after that, we'll move into Canada, UK, and Australia. So, but to your point, we still have so much further to go. It's a $99 billion industry. We're doing like over 20 million a year in revenue. So we're dropping the bucket compared to
That's
what's
awesome.
really happening out there.
Yeah. So just for the people listening, let's just like describe kind of like somebody goes on their phone, they have a lawn they want cut. They download your app or something, and then they say, "Hey, I want someone to come mow my lawn today." And then basically somebody else on the other end has a lawnmower and he says, "I need to make some money today." Boom, click the button and then you connect them, and then that's awesome, man. I think that's cool.
That's basically how it works. Yeah. So rather than calling around on Craigslist or Yelp or trying to like, oh, my neighbor gave me this guy's name and number, now I got to leave them a voicemail, and I got to wait for them to come out and look at the yard and give me a written proposal. Then I hire them and they actually don't even show up.
Mhm.
And then I got to do that whole process over again. That happens all the time. And so rather than doing all of that, you just download GreenPal, you pop your address in, and within a few minutes, you'll get quotes back from lawn care services in your zip code. They say, hey, I can do it for $35. I'll do it for 42. I actually have 2 people on your street already. I can do it for $25. And you can read reviews about which service you want to work with, and just hire them, and then hire them right off the shelf like you would like a product on Amazon.
Yeah.
And they come out and do the service for you. You get a picture of the yard when it's done. You approve that. And if you liked how everything went, you can just book that service for the rest of the season. They'll come out every week, every 2 weeks, whatever you want, and it just happens.
Mhm.
And it happens like clockwork and almost invisibly. You don't have to like wrangle these people to come every week. And
Yeah.
you might think, okay, well, after you make the initial introduction, like then what? Well, as it turns out, like there's a mysterious thing of the disappearing lawn guy. Like they show up for a couple and then they just go away. They drop
Right.
off the face of the earth. Like it
Yeah.
happens. And
Yeah,
so
for sure.
our platform ensures that you get that consistent experience throughout, for as long as you live in the home.
That's so cool, man. I love the idea, and I love that you've made it into a reality. Have you thought about expanding into like other lawn care things, like just like once you get all established, do like tree services and like everything else that you can think of? Are you going to try and do that, or is it better just to have like one focus, like let's just do lawns everywhere? Like, what do you think?
Yeah. So we're bootstrapped,
Right.
self-funded. We have funded this business off of its own revenues from day one. So that's kind of another debate. Do you raise capital or do you bootstrap? For us, we chose to bootstrap. And that's kind of the reason why we're here today, because
Mm,
it's forced us to focus on only what matters and put all of the company's intensities into a few things at a time, and to like literally be the best in the world at one thing. And so
that's
in
cool.
order to like break out as a product, in order to have a strong value proposition, you have to be the best in the world or in your market at one thing. So like if you're gonna do any kind of business, if you're going to open up a coffee shop, it's got to be the best damn cup of coffee in that zip code. It's got to be the best. If you're going to open up a cookie bakery, you better damn well make the best cookies in town, or else you're not going to make it. And so for us, we have focused on this one service: lawn maintenance, lawn care. Let's make that as easy as pushing a button. And
Yeah.
that's all we do. And that's all the app does for a new user. Then after you get hooked up with a good lawn care service through our platform, you can layer on additional services for your yard maintenance, like shrubs, mulch, seed, leaf
Uh,
removal, snow plowing. All of these other things kind of get unlocked as you go through the user journey. But we don't put all of those things on the front door,
mhm.
because when the user comes to your app, and if it does everything, it does nothing. If
Yeah.
if if a user comes to your website, you don't know what the hell GreenPal is. You found it on Google. Like, what is this? Okay, I can get tree trimming. I'm just gonna call somebody. Like,
Yeah.
oh no, wait, this is a way I can get the grass cut today. I'm in. And then
Yeah.
after that experience goes well, you can then layer on these other complementary services.
That's so cool. I think that's actually like really wise just to focus, I guess. I'm somebody who has like a billion different businesses and I just need to like become the best at one thing, I think, to really stand out. So I think
I
it's great
think it
advice for
applies to all
everybody.
business,
Yeah.
all new business.
Yeah,
Once
definitely.
once your coffee shop has 50 locations, then maybe you can look at like being the best in bagels and the
Right.
best in
Not yet
muffins,
though. Yeah.
but not yet. Like, let's have the best damn muffin on the corner, in the neighborhood, and that's what
Yeah.
that value proposition is what brings people in. I think that's smart for all new business, particularly self-funded businesses.
Right. That's crazy. Well, I love it, man. I want to talk a little bit more about the software thing. So I always envisioned like software as like a passive income. So I guess I need the reality. Like I always figured like you get the idea, you write the code, you market it, and then it's already built and you just sell the crap out of it and you sell it until people don't want it anymore. Something like that. But that doesn't seem like it's a reality. So what is the reality of like your software businesses, like if you're going to bootstrap it, especially?
Certainly hasn't been my reality. Now,
Yeah.
can that happen? Maybe.
Right.
Maybe you can build this tool that people will pay $20 or $50 a month to use, and you can just let it go. Um, Even if that is the case, you probably have like a 1 or 2 year window.
Right.
The like it is Software and tech is swimming in a swimming pool full of piranhas. There are always teams out there that are many times bootstrap or venture backed, and so they
Yeah.
have like $5 million to pour into this same thing that you're trying to do,
Oh, man, I
and
never thought of that.
they'll just eat your lunch. Like, if you're not
Yeah.
always making it better, sharp, like better, faster, cheaper than the status quo. um, there might be a win of opportunity there where you can like set it and forget it, but and that's going to be temporary. Like in business, impermanence is a fundamental truth in all business, really in life. um, Things are always impermanent, and that could be everything from like your competitive advantage uh, the delightful experience that you're delivering to your customers that your competitors are not able to. That is impermanent. You're going to have to always get it better and better and better to stay out in front of that. They will eventually catch up with you. And impermanence is true in terms of distribution and marketing. Like, let's say you've figured out a way to do like Facebook ads better than your competition, and now you're like kicking their butts. That advantage is impermanent. Like, that channel will eventually decay, and you will have to figure out a way to spend more money on it or find a different channel. So it's like it always requires smart people working on problems to improve it. Uh, Otherwise, it will decay, and it's just like I've yet to see a software product that has existed for like 1 or 2 years that hasn't gotten better and better and better over
Right.
time. Like, I mean, you think of anything you use
Yeah.
every year, it gets better.
Always
Like, it doesn't matter.
improving.
Always. It doesn't matter if it's Uber with Uber Pool and Uber Eats and schedule a ride. And hell, I used Uber the other day to pay for my parking. Um, or DoorDash, like there's more restaurants, they show up faster. I can add all these additional things on that I couldn't do before onto my order. Like everything is always getting better. And so if you want to play in the tech space, you're just going to be relentless about constant improvement. That's table stakes.
That's awesome, man. Really appreciate that. So I'm just all about like the listener's success. It seems like you have a wealth of wisdom on business and things like that. Do you have any just tips that maybe we haven't talked about that has really led to your success or that you think are keys to success in general in business?
I think no matter what you're doing, one principle would be to remove all the friction that stands between you and your customer giving you feedback.
Mhm.
So I think like feedback from your customers is free R&D. And for us, a lot of times when you're building a tech product, people will claim that you might be at a loss for what you should be doing, or you might not know what you should be working on, or you might not intuitively be aware of what problems you need to be solving. For us, that's never been the case because we've made it really, really simple and easy for any person that uses our product, whether it was like back in the day it was only 20, or now that's several hundred thousand, to contact us, to be able to hit us up in live chat, to be able to shoot us an email and get a response back in less than a minute, to be able to call us, like to make it super easy for them to tell us where we suck. And then we know what to work on. Then we know what we should be improving on. Then we know like what are the 5 things that our users want the most right now. Let's focus on those. And we're never at a loss or never guessing because they're always telling us. And so to use the coffee shop example, like if you can make it really easy for those people to tell you what they wish that your store did better, and it could be they had to wait in line longer, it could be that they wanted to order ahead, it could be the coffee was bitter, it could be the coffee was too hot, it could be that it was too cold. Like if you can make it really simple for them to tell you that, and figure out ways to remove that friction, that will give you a competitive advantage and help you build a more successful business and more profitable business. The reality is most entrepreneurs are like hesitant, resistant to that feedback. Like, oh,
Yeah,
another pissed off customer. What does this person want? And it's like, that's not happening to you. It's happening for you, to be able to improve your business.
that's awesome, man. Yeah, I definitely just try and not to. I try and respond and be as on top of all the customers that you get, but sometimes there's just those people that are like, what do they want today? you know,
It's
but
so
it's so
hard.
true though, man.
It's
It's so
so true,
true.
and it's so damn hard. I'm the same way.
Yeah.
But if we can just hold that notion in our head, it'll help us build a better business.
Yeah, to improve. I totally agree. I love that, man. Um, so I'm just curious, like when do you remember like when you finally caught a break with GreenPal and it really just started like taking off, or it was like, do you remember like what was the things that led up to that finally having that like good moment, like success or something like that? Like was there any moment or was it just
For
on
us,
nonstop grind,
for
man?
us, there has never. I don't. I think that that moment could exist for many businesses. I don't know. I,
Yeah.
like there's never like that one. So I'm a big fan of this guy named Naval Ramikov, and
Yeah.
I might be
Love him.
mispronouncing his name. But one thing he said in every interview one time was that there's no one move on the chessboard that wins the game.
Right.
And so like if you're good at chess, like it's always this slow build up. It's always this like methodical approach to taking the long view and little by little getting your opponent in checkmate. And not that business is a zero sum game where one person wins and one person loses like chess, but it is similar in that regard in terms of there is a slow build up, and it is, at least in my experience, progress by 5 and 6 and 7% gains, little by little, that over time compound. And there's
Yeah.
never been like for us one moment it's like, oh, this is now we're breaking out. Like it has been, we have fought for every inch. We have like grinded our way for all of the progress that we've gotten. And as time, the numbers get bigger, but there was never one move on the chessboard that won the game. Like another analogy would be like in American football, like you're not throwing Hail Marys. You are running 2 and 3 yard plays all day long, like grinding your way to the end zone. You're never taking long shots downfield, particularly if you're bootstrapped. You're always just kind of grinding your way all the way through to success. And a lot of that is like in running plays, you go backwards, like you try stuff and it doesn't work. And so it's that analogy, like you don't play the passing game, play the running game. For me, characterizes 2 businesses that I've built.
Yeah. I usually use the baseball analogy. Just get on base. You just got to get on base, and then eventually somebody will hit a home run or a grand slam. But you just got to get on base, man. Get those
Got
first
to
couple
get on
strikes.
base, and you can't strike out. Like, stay in the game. Don't die.
Yeah,
Don't die. Don't strike out. Stay in the game and get on base.
yeah, exactly.
And get in
I
the
like
game.
a
Put me in the game, coach. Get in the
yeah,
game.
exactly. Get on
Like,
the
stay.
field at
Don't
least.
yeah. Your butt is outside the stadium. You're in the seats. You may not even be in the dugout. Get in the game. Like, that's a good analogy.
Yeah, for sure, man. That's funny. Well, I got one more question before we kind of get into that. You mind just kind of telling everybody like the best ways to download the app or where to get in contact with you? Like where do you hang out on social
Yeah.
media?
Life's too short to cut your grass. Don't waste time mowing your yard. You can just
Yeah,
download GreenPal in the App Store or Play Store. Get hooked up with a good lawn mowing service in less than a minute. And anybody wants to reach me, you can hit me up in LinkedIn. I've been hanging out there a lot more lately.
yeah, that's awesome, man. So the question that I've been kind of asking everybody that comes on the show is, what motivates you? You know, what really gets you up and going and keeps you, hungry? I guess.
I think that changes for most every entrepreneur that's getting progress. Like in the early days, for me, like what motivated me was I just wanted to prove that I could do it. I had a chip on my shoulder. I wanted the biggest, most successful company in town in my industry. I wanted to have a profitable business. I wanted to have more trucks on the road than anybody. Um, and so like that was like the first 2 or 3 years. And then after I built that business up, I got 5 or 10 employees, 20, 30 employees. That's when I realized, wow, no, this is bigger than that. This is actually about the people that work for me and the people that work for the business. And we have a family atmosphere here. And now these people have opportunities that they never had before because they joined my team, and that feels good. That's fun. That's motivating me. And so that like carried me through a long time. And then I realized, wow, this thing is actually, like I mentioned earlier, propelling me to reinvent myself every 5 years or so. And like you start to see that, and you start to see, wow, the business is the thing that is causing me to do that. And that's kind of what I keyed in on after I sold my first company was that, like, to have a meaningful life. People always like beat this passion thing to death. Like, dude, follow your passion, which I think is bad advice. Like, most businesses aren't fun enough to be your passion, but I do think that, like, your business can be your purpose. And so I think to have an effective life, a meaningful life, it has to be filled with purpose, and that your business can be the purpose, can be the thing that's causing you to get out of bed in the morning. The question that I have asked myself several times is like, if it weren't for me, X, if it weren't for me, then what? And the business is the answer to that question. Well, if it weren't for me, there's 20 something people that work for the company that wouldn't have a job. If it weren't for me, there's thousands of people that use the product that we built that wouldn't have access to it. There's people that have built their business on top of our platform. If it weren't for me, like, leading the team to make that better, they wouldn't have that opportunity. So, like, business is the thing that lends me purpose in my life, and without it, there'd be a big void there. So that's what keeps me going through the low points, and it also makes a lot of like the day-to-day grind a lot easier because you frame it in that context of, this is my life's work, this is my life's purpose.
Wow. I really like all that. I guess this is more of like a selfish question, but you say you have to reinvent yourself every 5 years. Do you think you have to like burn the boats? You know that metaphor where like you have to like forget everything, just like go on to the next thing. Do you think that's really important, or do you carry all your stuff that you used to do? Like, how much do you have to let go, and then how much do you have to go all in on the new version of you? Like, what is a good like balance with that, or how did you find your way doing that?
Yeah, I think a challenging growing business. It's not like you have to like reinvent yourself every 5 years and like have this timeline running, and you're like intentionally, at least in my experience, intentionally doing these things to reinvent yourself. That can be helpful if you are, but I think a successful business that's growing will cause that to happen. It's like,
Right.
guess what? Now you're picking up a legal book on mergers and acquisitions. You never in a million years would have read that book,
Right.
but you believe you can sell the business in 3 years, and so now you're reading this book to like, and you're leveling up, and now you know all of this legal jargon and all of these statutes and business law things that, and all these cases that you've read, that you never in a million years would have known that. And now there's this piece of your brain that operates in a legal sense that wasn't there before. And so, like, that's
Uh,
just one example of 100 things that could happen if you're piloting a growing business. And so the business, the marketplace will cause you to level up. It will cause you to grow and kind of reinvent yourself every 4 to 7 years, give or take. And so like that, I believe, is something that kind of happens to every entrepreneur that's growing. I think if you're starting a new business, I think it can help to have the burn the boats moment, because that certainly was the case for us when we started GreenPal. It was like all in. The only way to move was forward, and you look back and the boat is on fire. You cannot go backwards. And so
yeah.
like there was so like, particularly in the first 4 or 5 years, it was so difficult. It was such a slog. Um, that the only thing that kind of kept me in a lot of that slog was like, by default, I'm working on my best idea. And
Yeah.
then they're like, that's it. Like, there's not these other things. Like, I'm working on my best idea. I guess fortunately I'm not terribly creative, and this is all I got. And I'm going to throw my life's energy and force into this one thing. And success is, is the only option. Failure is just not an option. I'm not going backwards. And I think if you're starting a brand new business from scratch, that can certainly help you get through the first, 2, 3, 4 years, is like, have that mentality of, I'm not going back to my cubicle job. I'm not going back to my former boss. Like, I have burned the boats. There is no going back.
Right. Just all in, full steam ahead. Did you have any side hustles or anything else you're trying, or were you just like, GreenPal is all I got, 9 to 5, every day, wake up, go to sleep?
For me, that's how I've done it. And I think
No.
for me, that is how I operate. I have to focus on one thing. Now, I've seen other entrepreneurs that have built successful businesses, and they've done angel investing along the way. They've played in Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies.
Yeah.
They run a personal blog. They have they have this other side hustle, and they have this other thing, and that works for them. I don't understand how they do it. Like, because
Yeah.
for me, this one business is hard enough as it is. Like, I have to focus all of my personal GDP into this thing. So I don't see how you can do it, but I have seen it done. But for me, this entrepreneur's experience is like, you go in 100% on one thing and you do that for a decade, you will be successful.
Yeah, I think so too. It's almost like the curse of the modern era. There's just so many things, so many distractions just pulling you everywhere.
Right.
It'd be nice to just focus on one business. I've got too many damn businesses now.
I
So,
think if they complement each other,
yeah.
um, one of my favorite YouTubers is Noah Kagan, and he's got a successful business called AppSumo that's like doing $30 million a year, and he's been at this stuff for a decade. And
Yeah.
he throws a lot of weight into his YouTube channel, and it's like all of this stuff that's not related to AppSumo, but his target market for these videos is the same type of person that would use AppSumo.
Right.
So I think if they complement each other, and you can maybe do like a bank shot and see, like, maybe that works.
The
But
bank shot.
but like, I mean, yeah, me personally, that's not how I'm wired.
Yeah. Well, your method sounds smarter. So I salute you for doing it, man.
I don't know if it's smarter, but it is less riskier. It's less
Right.
risky. It's not smarter. It's more pragmatic, and it's more sustainable. And in my experience, if so long as you're willing to not give up, and you're willing to just be relentless and just consistent, over 5, 10 years, you can build something that's profitable and successful.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. Well, Brian, I really appreciate you coming on the show today. It's been just such a pleasure talking to you. Do you have any like last thoughts or something before we wrap up?
Yeah, anybody listening to this that is just getting started, whether you're still working your day job, or you are just, you just like quit your day job, or you're doing like nights and weekends, like, something that's helped me is to think small, act small, but be ambitious. And so entrepreneurship is full of all these paradoxes and dichotomies. It's like, do I have this great ambition, or do I do small, like little things that don't scale? I think if you can always just focus on one or two things at a time that are small and inside your little circle of influence, but have this big ambition anchored against that. And if you're willing to like rinse and repeat that for long enough, that's how you kind of get over the cold start and get from 0 to 1. Is that
Mhm.
is start small, act small, but be ambitious.
Right. Have big dreams and then just take little steps every day towards it, sort of.
Exactly.
Man. Well, it was awesome talking to you. Thank you, everybody, for listening. I think this was a super enlightening episode. So be sure to go download the GreenPal app and get your lawn mowed and recommend it to everybody. And be sure to like and subscribe and share this if you learned something. I really appreciate it. All right. Take care, everybody. Bye bye.